Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm your host, Sir Stephen Topham Hatt the Third, at your service. We're going to talk about this now in a logical manner of from an early 1900s, which is basically near the Victorian age, the Edwardian age, to give you a rough idea of what's actually unfolded in front of your eyes. Where it begins, it never ends. As they say, it's a time loop, right? Certain families, powerful families, which I'm not going to mention, some of them you will know, some of them you may not know. And a lot of you understand by protocol of standards before NHS, before NSFT even got involved in all this shit. They don't understand the shit that's coming their way, right? Right? You have to be realistic on this. This is before Reverend Robert Audrey even wrote a book on it, right? It's now been passed the buck and it's now gone through the chain of command. Right? A lot of people will think about this hard and learn it the hard way because they're always going to learn it the hard way because it's a one way. It's not something you should mess around with. Right? When you do it in real life, it's no chicken and the egg. If you take your chicken away, you've got no egg. If you haven't got egg, you've got no chicken, basically, in layman's terms, right? A lot of you a spectacle. How did this unfold? How did this unnaturally unfold? It's like I said, it started a long time ago and it's progressed forward and forward in time. We lost 30 years because of NHS's little nosy little bugger up here saying, oh, we got to do this because we're qualified. Yeah, well, they're qualified nothing. That's not the point here. NSFT's got that problem as well. They said, oh, we know you better, blah, blah, blah. Well, I said, no, they don't, right? When it begins, it never ends. Why? How many of you, there's a lot of you that know this inside and out. I'm not going to be BSing around it, right? You have to put yourself in a position we can't interrogate this person or we can't ask specific questions with this individual because he knows what's on our brains, basically, layman terms. But you got to let it play through because if we don't let it play through correctly, a lot of things that you know that's unfolding correctly, which is true, you haven't attempted with it too much, you haven't asked too many questions about it, you let it play naturally and unfoldably, and it will come to you naturally, right? Of course, there is a lot of things to be looked up for, right? A lot of you are asking, why? Why so much it's linked to this family or this particular group of families, right? There's families beyond families, right? You get my point? The further back you go, the more of a connection you get from certain families, alright? I won't go into detail, but a lot of you understand when it begins, it never ends because it's a loop. It's a loop that cannot be destroyed. If it gets destroyed, the whole world will explode, and then the NHS can't support you or anything that it was. Anything we do in our lives will end up screwed. So I'm trying to tell you logically, if it was set out the way it was meant to be, and written and confirmed, you cannot. Ex- you have to acknowledge that because that's real life information going in. It's like watching the never ending story, part one, two, and three, right? It's a bit like that. But in this case, this is real life of it. You can't change it, you can't do anything around it, right? A lot of people don't realise it, not even doctors. That's how stupid they are. You know what I mean? Doctors are the stupidest people on the planet because they don't realise it from a logical fact that's been put into logic and respect. And it all goes back to a lot of family member groups, right? I'm not saying the rude word or anything like that. It's just, it's plain logic, right? You're not going to gain anything by moving, by standing still and not realizing, oh God, this is real life. This is not bullshit. This is not crap. It's real life. and you're not accepting it because you're finding it really hard. You find it really like saying, "What the hell is going on here? What's this man is trying to accomplish here?" And then you're ending up realizing that I'm a member of the Hatt family, which is true, and then you find out what the hell's next on the line. Then people will start to ask questions that they want answers for, and most of it is privatized for reasons. A lot of it is all anagram to stop people hunting us down one by one by one. But a lot of things that a lot of people don't expect, which is why I'm putting the question to you, right? If you had certain background material, right, I know every employee that's working under my belt, right? They're not getting paid. They're using their own jobs to get their own money, right? That's simple. But the pattern repeats 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, right? And it all adds up once it gets to that point, right? And everybody will just think, "Oh God, what? He's white, he was white, he was white," and we ended up telling them he's gone ding ding dang dong, right? Which it's not. I'm trying to get people to understand there's a lot more to it than the naked eye. What your eyes and your ears are telling you right now. Let's take the North Norfolk Railway as example, because I know their path is going to go boom. Why? Because they left themselves with a terrible mistake in their midst, alright? Which is true, the North Norfolk Railway won't stand a chance. Why? Because all the people that are going on it right now are just bloody damn stupid people. The people that do not understand what's unfolding, right? Every time it does play out the way it should, then you're ending up with one big problem, right? I got a little problem, but that's my personal private problem, right? I have to recorrect that before it gets out of hand again, right? A lot of people say, "Why?" Then you're ending up with this, right? Let me take you. Right, everybody should know Wild Norester, right? One of my private connections from America or Australia, even that. And then you're realizing this is what's unfolding, this is what's just unfolded, right? Then you're going to combine that together with everything you've got in your head. The questions you want, it's all in this series. Because while it's unfolding in real life, then you're going to end up cracking it bit by bit, slowly, slowly, and you're going to end up realizing you got a safeguard up here. You can only go as far as what it's telling you, right? So you have to live with that perspective, because where it began, you can learn from it, which is true, but it never ends because it belongs to me and my family as a whole, right? Things are there for a reason, right? You got my son Richard to come, and you got my Emily Helen Hatt, my granddaughter. 2 people, right? Right, when I say this in layman terms, you really are pushing the belt a bit, right? Because people want more information out of me, which they cannot have, right? These particular family groups are being forged together to keep the the pattern going and making it all correct in the way it was played out, right? Let's just say the NHS think they know it all, and NSFT are learning. Don't get me wrong. I'm not they saying they could be behind their desks watching these videos or watching Wild and the rest of the videos and look at the Thomas series itself. Then they will piece it all together in their head slowly, and it will click. Why? Because it will get to the safeguard point where they can't touch me. Why? Because they're not allowed to. They can do like health checks and so forth, which is normal, but then they realise there's nothing wrong with this guy because he's too intelligent, right? You have to be realistic now. You got Liz and the other departments to follow, right? We have to follow the same procedure and say, why doesn't it never end? Why? Because Wild Noresta is giving you a clue, right? An unknown individual in the story, right? Told in fiction, but it's going to turn into reality. Why? Every pattern has a clue, but it's going back to certain people. Connections are everywhere. Colleagues are everywhere. Family is everywhere. Why? Why do you think, right? Regardless that my grandfather on my mother's side of the family is dead, and then you got my grandfather on my father's family dead as well. Who's safeguarding me? Which grandfather has actually safeguarded me the most? So let me tell you a little hint. They both did, but one was closer to me than anyone else have put together. Now, if I take 20 years back, backwards, right? On the 13th of October 2004, Henry Cooper died 3 days after my birthday. Now, that's not normal, don't get me wrong. He was born in November in the early 1900s, about 1920s, 1930s, something like that. And then bang, then people start asking the biggest question: why is he Porter 37? People know something you don't, and my grandfather's just giving me the last piece of a clue. Right? You need to work out the instant record on this. This is no game. Isn't a joke. Why do you think the YouTube is allowing this through? Why? Because it's real life. It's facts. It's truth. And it's logic. Right? When people say, oh, that's a conspiracy joke, I said, no, flaming isn't. Right? A lot of people said, okay, you want this to be like a conspiracy? Well, ask yourself a question. How come you've been warned, you've been told, and you've been shown? Three things, right? And you've been acknowledged, and you've been warned, and you've been shown, and you've been told. What happens? It always leads you to where it begins, and it continues a pattern again. You're ending up with the same bloody bunch of problems you had in the past, present, because they all connected. So if you try and pull a string, like they say, right, all you're doing is recorrecting a lot of stuff, which I'm doing, right? You lot can continue with your lives as normal naturally to a point, but there are certain families that have to connect together because they were born, raised to do so, right? If anybody understands this quote, in the Thomas franchise, right? Let me give you an answer. I will do this as a separate podcast, I think, just to be on a safe note. A lot of you would say a lot of things out there thinking, oh, what the hell is he talking about? Well, I will explain it to you in every department, right? You're going to learn it the hard way now, but I will tell you the truth behind it all, right? But you're going to have to listen hard, and you're going to acknowledge it hard, because this is no lies, no deceits, and no jokes. This is no laughing matter. Every time I'm growing older, time is slipping. Every time I try to recorrect something that needs to be recorrected in time, which it will do this year in 2024, so it's 20 years later after my grandfather's death on my mother's side of the family, bang! Something will hit you right in your face. Something you wouldn't be expected, right? I got to be patient for it, but I'm going to do it as a separate podcast. Thank you very much. I'll be back to you shortly.